So this might be a super long video because I haven't done a video in a while. This is TTC update for, I guess you'd call it mostly October. So, okay. So we've been TTCing now about 17 months, I think. So this month we're doing our 6th round of Clomid. So just a quick recap. Started Clomid 50 milligrams, didn't work. So they bumped me up to 100 milligrams. So I took that this is my 6th month of taking that, not straight through. The 4th time I had in 4th month doing it, I had HSG. Everything looked normal. So they had me take the next month off of Clomid. Nothing happened on its own. Hubby's been checked, his semen analysis is great. Yeah, so my ultrasound every month looks good. My numbers are the day 21 progesterone on the Clomid are kind of random. 1 month they're a 10, 1 month they're a 36, 1 month they're a 14. They're kind of all over the place. So my doctor had said, I had gone in to see her for my annual pap smear or whatever, and to talk to her like, well, what's the next step after Clomid? Like, because I'm getting nervous. I heard you can only take it up to 6 times, and I'm going to be starting my 6th. And she was like, you know, maybe you just need something else. Maybe you need a Clomid with an IUI, that sort of thing. She said, I can do it here for you in our office, but obviously we're not open on Saturday and Sunday, and the days that it would have fallen in last month that we would have ovulated would have been on a weekend. So she's like, so I can't do it for you this month or whatever. She was like, if you want, I could go ahead and refer you to the reproductive endocrinologist, and they can do like Clomid or a trigger shot or IUI or whatever you need there, even if it's on a Saturday and Sunday, you know. And then once I get you pregnant, you can come back to me. You don't have to, you know, stay with them. So I was like, okay, you know, maybe that's the route that we'll go and whatnot. Well, there's 2 main places that they refer to. One reproductive endocrinology group is a private group, and they're in a town about an hour and a half away. And they told me, hey, we've heard great things from our patients, you know, great feedback on this facility, and they're warm and fuzzy, and they'll hold your hand and all that kind of stuff. And so I was really interested in trying them. But obviously the other place, which is wonderful, it's Shands Hospital here, and it's like world class. But I've heard they're very clinical, they're not super friendly, they're there with a goal to get you pregnant, they're very like cold kind of bedside manner kind of thing. And you know, I've considered up until now, I'm a pretty tough chick. You know, I've had my gallbladder out, and I have a dental implant, I had LASIK eye surgery, and you know, like, I've been through some stuff, and I'm tough, and I've gone for a lot of tests all by myself, and, you know, the HSG was fine, and it wasn't a big deal. So I kind of thought, okay, well, this isn't a big deal. We'll just go see the reproductive endocrinologist here in our town. We can do Clomid and an IUI, no big deal, right? Like, that's totally what I was expecting. So we had our appointment. It was about a month away, so we went 2 weeks ago Tuesday. Anyways, hubby went with me. It was, my boss was out of town, so I didn't really have to work, but I had volunteered to help at her front desk later in the afternoon. So girl was kind of counting on me after I opened my big mouth and said, well, I'll come work for you this afternoon. I don't have anything going on after my appointment. So I met him there at the office. Did all the paperwork and everything, and then a really nice nurse called me into, you know, this little kind of conference room thing, and of course the resident, because it's a teaching hospital, the resident came in and was like, he was like a twerp. I'm sorry, he was a twerp. No bedside manner whatsoever. It was like a limp noodle. I was trying to make jokes and whatever. I mean, not jokes, but you know, trying to be lighthearted because I was nervous. So I told him about our whole journey. I had all of my records there, even though my doctor had forwarded all my records. And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to go relay all of this to Dr. Williams, and then he'll be in just a minute. And I've heard like Dr. Williams is like the man, you know, like, oh, Dr. Williams gets everybody pregnant. And so for that, I'm grateful. But so he came in, and within like 2 minutes of knowing us, he didn't say like, hey, so what do you guys do for a living, or how long have you kids been married, or didn't get to know us at all, or how long have you really been trying, or anything like that. He was just like, well, I reviewed all your records and I reviewed your history here that so-and-so took, whatever the little twerp's name was. And he was like, it doesn't look like the Clomid's working for you, so the step between Clomid and IVF is injectables. So with an IUI, are you familiar with what an IUI is? And I was like, I think so. But I really just thought I was coming here for Clomid and an IUI and whatever. And he was like, no, we're beating a dead horse by doing Clomid and whatever. And I said, well, you know, I've done a little bit of research and whatnot. And I said, would it be at all a possibility to try Femara? Or Femara, or however you pronounce it, because I see a lot of you girls go through that and have good success with an IUI with that. And he looked at me like I was a horrible person, and he was like, do you know that that's not FDA approved for that usage and everything else? And I'm like, there's a lot of drugs on the market that physicians use them to treat other things than what they're clinically indicated for. Like, I'm fully aware of that. So he was like, plus it causes birth defects, and like went on this whole thing, and I was like, okay, well, I was just asking like if I have any other option, because I said, I'll be quite frank, like, I'm like shocked right now. Like, I did not think I was going to have to do injectables. And he was like, yeah, the Clomid thins out your lining so much, even if you did get pregnant, you probably, you know, wouldn't be able to sustain the pregnancy, and da-da-da-da. He's like, but we'll do an exam today, and, you know, maybe you have PCOS or something like that. And I had just told him my mom had endometriosis for 4 years and all that kind of stuff when she was trying to conceive me and everything. But he never once said, like, oh, let's check you for endometriosis or, you know, anything like that. He mentioned PCOS, and that was it. Said we do an exam. So they ushered us right over into another room. It was all kind of happening so fast. And I feel like I kind of misrepresented to my husband. I was like, oh, it's not a big deal. We're just going to go to the RE and get some more Clomid and shoot your stuff up there, and we'll be good to go, right? So they take us in this little room, even though I told them I had just had my annual exam and my pap smear and all 2 weeks before, you know, my breast exam, the whole deal that they do. So they take us in this little room right next door, and he's like, well, I need to do a transvaginal ultrasound. And I'm like, well, I'm due for my period any day, so I don't know if that's accurate or not or what, but go ahead. So he did that. The little twerp guy comes over. He's doing a self-breast exam on me, lecturing me about the importance of doing a breast exam every month and what's the technique I use to do it. And I'm like, are you serious? It's not really the focus of my visit today. Like, I'm just telling you, I just had an annual with my OBGYN 2 weeks ago. I'm cool, you know? So my husband's sitting in the room. I just wanted to like burst into tears. He said he didn't see any cysts. He saw one small cyst on my ovary, but he said that should go away with my period. But he didn't see anything else. So they left the room. I got dressed. I just started sobbing to my husband. I was just like, I'm just totally in shock right now. Like, this is not at all what I was expecting. And, you know, whatever. So the nice nurse comes back in, and she's like, okay, well, now we have to do a STD screening on you guys, HIV, chlamydia, gonorrhea. She starts naming off this whole list. She goes, so come over here to our lab. And we have to use a different lab for our insurance, and we usually don't pay anything. It's usually free. But they wanted us to have it done at their lab, and I know we have to pay somewhat out of pocket if we go through their lab. So she ushered us right over to our thing, and she's like, okay, it's $280 for you and your husband to have your blood work done for your STD check before we can go forward with this. So go up to the desk and pay, and then come back, and we'll do the blood work so we can get started next cycle with the injectables. And I'm like, we haven't had time to discuss it. We haven't had time to talk about it or let it marinate. Like, all this was just happening so fast. I was like, you know, I really don't know if I want to do that today. You know, I'd rather like wait, let's digest it, whatever, I'll come back another day and do it. And they were like, okay, well, let's get your prolactin and your TSH today. So they did start to take blood. At that point, I started to feel like I was going to pass out just because I was like crying so hard. The lady taking my blood was like on the phone with her son's teacher or something. I don't even know. I was just told my husband, please help me take my cardigan off because I'm going to pass out. So then from there, we sat on a little bench as a bunch of pregnant women walked by in the hallway and with little newborn babies, and I sobbed on the bench while we waited to talk to the financial coordinator. We went in the financial coordinator's office and basically told us what our insurance will cover, what our insurance won't cover, and all that sort of thing. And then they were like, do you have any other questions? You can speak to his other nurse who would show you how to do the injections and everything. she was not super nice. She was just like, she took us back in the first original conference room and she's like, well, what questions do you have? And I'm like, I don't know, I haven't even had time to like digest any of this, even come up with a question. And she was like, well, I'll teach you how to do the injections. It's not a big deal. It's follow stem and da-da-da. And then you'll give yourself a trigger shot and then we'll do an ultrasound and da-da-da-da. So we'll do an IUI. So I was like, okay, well, I'll call you back. Like, I need to think about it. And I mean, obviously we're going to do it if that's our only option. But I think it was pushing it too much time-wise to start this next cycle because I was supposed to start my period like the next day. So she said they could have them follow stem overnighted or whatever, but that I had to have the preliminary blood work done, and that takes a couple days, and then they have to teach me how to do the injections, and that's like another appointment and everything. So it was kind of rushed. We couldn't really do it this cycle. She's like, just take this month off, and then we'll get all your blood work and everything done, and your preliminary ultrasound and all, and then we'll start next cycle. So we were like, okay. So I just cried, like, honestly, for days. I went to work that afternoon and I was like hysterical. One of the girls that I work with is a very close friend of mine that we work out together and all, and she has been through IVF and IUI and everything, and it ended up adopting a beautiful little girl from China, and that was like 8 years ago. So, you know, she's been through all this, and she's been kind of coaching me, you know, the whole time, like you ladies, all the advice that you've given me, like, oh, don't sit around and wait and let 5 years go by before you go to the doctor and find out if there's something wrong or whatnot. So I just, like, had a nervous breakdown, I think, like, at the office that afternoon. I was, like, sobbing so hard. I went through, like, anger, like, angry at people that have all these kids that they don't take care of, and, you know, and I just was, like, in a really negative place. So over the next couple days, like the next day, I went to the mall to get a birthday present for a friend from the Bath and Body Works, and I pulled into the mall and I saw a lady getting a stroller and all out of the car next to me, and I just started sobbing, like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I was so sad. Thank goodness my husband was driving by. He was working and he was driving by and stopped and hung out with me for about 15 minutes and gave me hugs and all that kind of stuff, and I was just like a mess. And then, like, Friday we went shopping together. We stopped to get some lunch and do some errands. I just started crying in the middle of Boston Market over my lunch. I'm like, what is my problem? So Saturday we got up. We were having an impromptu yard sale. My mom wanted to have a yard sale, and she brings all of her stuff over to our neighborhood. We were having a neighborhood-wide one, so we decided to just throw a little pile out and whatever. I got up and I had 2 faint positives on my test at 6 a.m. One was a Fact Plus, and it was a very faint positive, and the other one was a very faint first response over the second faint line, which I've never, ever had in my whole entire life. But then I did a digital one, and it said not pregnant, so I'm like, well, 2 out of 3 minds agree, like. So I have to say I was super excited all day. I was like giddy to my husband. I'm like, oh my God, this could be it. Like, oh my God, maybe they just didn't see anything on the ultrasound the other day at the RE's office. I still haven't started my period. Oh my God, this is so exciting. And he's like, don't get your hopes up. He's like, I'm excited too, but don't get your hopes up. So basically, we went to lunch after the yard sale. Went to lunch with my mom and everything, and then watched the football game and stuff, and then we had dinner plans with our friends Saturday night, and she did Clomid also with all of her babies, and she has twin girls and another daughter, an older daughter, and I showed her the test, and I'm like, what do you think? Could I be a little bit pregnant? And she's like, I don't know. I test again in the morning and see if it's any darker and call me. And I was like, okay. So sure enough, I went to the bathroom at their house before we left to go to dinner, and I started my period all over the place. So I was like, way to go, Aunt Flo, to crash the party. So needless to say, the rest of the night I was kind of bummed. I had cramps and everything, and I didn't really feel that great. And so I called my regular OBGYN on Monday and explained everything that had happened to the nurse, and she said it kind of sounds like you maybe had a chemical pregnancy, where I guess is where something is fertilized, but it just doesn't implant or doesn't stick, I guess because my lining is so crappy from doing 6 rounds of Clomid. So she said, if you want, we can do one last round of Clomid, your very last one. We would bump you up to 150 milligrams, and see how that goes. And I said, well, is there anything I can do to improve my lining and give me a better chance this month, because I want to do whatever possible not to have to go on to injectables. And she was like, okay, well, your doctor's not here today, so I'll consult with the other doctor and we'll call you back. So I didn't have to work Monday. My boss was out of town again. So I was home. So she called me about 1 o'clock. I was scrubbing my bathroom, and she called and said, can you come down right now and get all this paperwork I have for you? We have a whole new plan of attack. So I will get into a separate video, because I know this is super long and rambling, but it's just been so much going on in these past few months, and I wanted to bring you guys up to speed and get any advice or opinions that you may have. So I'll start the next video of October's plan of attack.